I'm ready. Hold on just a second. Hello, and welcome to the 10th Annual Gary International Black Film Festival. I am Karen Toring, and I'm really excited today to be able to talk with Chief David Montana and Queen Ausettua of the Whashitaw Nation about the film Black Indians. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you were able to talk to us tonight. Chief David, I want you to start off by telling us about I want you to start off by telling us about the origin of the Washita Nation and how you came to be a part of the nation.
Okay. Washita Nation, true nation of Black Indian. We decided that we want to pull our own tribe, and Ausettua, I say, I got a name that we want to use, Washita, true nation of Black Indian. And we use that name, and it's funny because the Empress had a son, one son, and he found out that we were using the name, and he called me, "You don't know what you did, but you done something great here. You opened up something that was closed." And his mother told him that there would be, now how she knew this, that there would be a chief and a queen to come and carry her remains to the Washita River. And they invited us to Monroe, Louisiana, where the mounds were. And we went to deliver her ashes to her final resting place. And when we went there that first time, it was so unique and so beautiful to see Black people in charge, you know, and they wore crowns. They had their crowns on, they wore them every day. So that let me know right then and there, these people for real. And I'm gonna love this journey. So we started calling ourselves Whashitaw Nation. And what's so unique about it, my family is Black Indian. My grandmother, Mama Jean, my great-grandmother, and my grandmother, Alice Montana, they were Cherokee and French. They had French blood also. They did the massing. My daddy, my uncle Tootie Montana, Edward Montana, was the two guys that brought the Yellow Pocahontas tribe a long ways, like 50 years around. And my daddy died before his little brother, but he was second chief of the Yellow Pocahontas tribe. So that made me come into the Yellow Pocahontas tribe as second chief. Edward, my father, died in '94. When he died, he was working on a suit that I finished. And when I finished that suit, I had 2 months to finish it, and I finished that. The spirit was on me for many more suits to be made. And that was my first suit that I actually made as a grown person, because I made a few little suits when I was young, when I massed a couple of times with the Yellow Pocahontas tribe. I massed about 2 or 3 years out the tribe. And I stopped. But when my daddy was getting older, he pulled me to the side. He said, "Boy, you better learn your culture because I ain't gonna be here forever." And me and him stood close like that. And when he left, I picked up his work and I finished it. And the feeling came across me. And I didn't have a queen at that year. And I met Ausettua after Hurricane with a suit on, and she was saying, "Who's this little funny looking man with this suit on?" So she didn't know that was a Hickey Freeman suit. So that was a very expensive suit I was wearing. Now I ain't had no car. No cars wasn't in the city at that particular time. I had a bike, and I rode my bike.
Okay, so stay on. She asked for the history of the Washita. So let's go back to that, because as you can see, he's a very experienced storyteller, and the information is accurate. But I really want to make sure that the viewers understand where this concept comes from. That we're not just Black people in Louisiana acting like Indians. That's not what it's really about. It is a tradition that started in the late 1800s. It is something that grew out of a reverence for the Native Americans that took the enslaved Africans who fled the plantations, that took them in when they fled the plantations. They didn't want to be a part of slavery. Now, I ask your viewers this question. If I'm going to go hide by some people, I must have to look like them. So I need the audience to clearly process the timeline of the original indigenous Black Indians versus the Indians that they see on TV or the $5 Indians. It's different people, right? And I'm not trying to discredit the legacy of the present day Native Americans, because I am sure that there are some who are still very much connected to the original indigenous population. But the original indigenous Black Indian population that Christopher Columbus saw when he came here were people who look like you and me, right? And so that brings us to the point where we recognize that prior to the European invasion, that there were indigenous people of color, not just here in Louisiana or in North America, but in South America, in Asia, in Europe. You know, the first man, Black people. Okay, so we got that, right? So in essence, it makes this work Egun work. It makes it ancestor work. So we in, but the reality is this came about around a tradition called Mardi Gras, right? Mardi Gras happened in most French places that Catholicism existed. You have what you call Carnival, right? So France has it, Trinidad has it, Brazil has it, Haiti has it, parts of Africa have it. New Orleans is dubbed as the most African city in the United States, and it's for several reasons. And this particular practice is one of those. You have to ask yourself that there are other Black people in the United States that have Indians in their bloodline. Why is it that this tradition took hold here and persisted from the late 1800s up until today? And so the groups form tribes, gangs, or nations. And some of them have made up names that they create, and some of them are named after real Indian nations. Like there's the Seminoles, there's the Creole Osceola, you know, there's Washita.
Wild Magnolia.
That's not,
that's not
I say they might be indigenous groups. So there is also a disconnect amongst the Indians who practice the culture, because we as Black people, we are at a disadvantage in embracing our history. It calls for a lot of research, and many of us don't have the time to do that. Many of us have not left New Orleans, so they haven't gone to Africa, to Haiti, to the South America, to see the connection, to see how what we're doing is directly tied to our ancestors. Yes. And that's what makes the work look so phenomenal. I know people who've never set foot in Africa or Haiti, but this processional, this sacred procession that we do, it is such a manifestation of that. It lets me know that the memory is in the DNA. So it doesn't matter if they haven't gone there physically, and the DNA is coming out. Yes. So when they do the procession on the street, because the gangs, the nations, all the tribes are organized in a hierarchy. You have the big chief. They don't say big because his body is big. He's big because that's the position, right? So you have the big
positionality.
Yes, positionality. And then you may have a second chief or a third chief, and you have the spy boy and the flag boy and the wild man and the medicine man. But all of those positions directly correlate to Orisha. The first time I saw it, I said, wow, this is like Elegba, Shango, Ogun. The people in New Orleans don't connect to that, because from them, it's not about Africa, it's about New Orleans. See, New Orleans is its own little entity within itself. We're in our own little bubble.
Yeah.
So I need the audience to understand that it's a source of pride. Yes. It is a commitment to a practice that has been going on for hundreds of years. Yes, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it is evolving. It is evolving. So I am grateful to the filmmakers to preserve those moments where they documented us, because I just think that it is important that the world knows that this is probably the only indigenous, Black indigenous culture in the United States. I'm not we have representation of creativity, because we have R&B, we have jazz, we have a whole lot of things, but a culture that is uniquely self-produced. It's done by your own money, your own time. It takes a whole year to create your own creations. So that's really what it comes out of. So when we decided to take on a name, because I am very much deeply rooted into my African heritage, my Native American heritage, my Haitian heritage, my South American, whatever, because that's what we are. We are a melting pot of different people, but we all come from the same one source, I believe. Although it is funny that we all say Africa, 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 but when you talk to the Dogon, they say Sirius B. Talk to the South Africans, they talk about some star in the galaxy. So I think Parliament Funkadelic had it right. Mothership connection, intergalactic culture with Egungun ancestors. So I just think that the people need to understand what the culture, that's really what it encapsulates.
My queen is heavy.
So we have children involved, babies. There are babies who can't even walk, who families mask them. And it's a level of notoriety that Beyonce can't touch.
Come on.
Everybody want their picture with the big chief or the big queen. It's royalty. We have created this whole aspect of royalty here. And I think the film did a good job capturing how we process.
Capturing us, because there's a many on the streets, right? A lot of us.
Yes.
And captured us, but they captured us because we outstanding.
So talk about the larger culture that is, within the community of Black Africans in New Orleans, and where y'all sort of fit.
As you know, New Orleans is known as the birthplace of jazz, right? Jazz was created inside of Congo Square, which is the only place of African retention where the French and the Spanish allowed, we're gonna let them say they allowed because they couldn't stop the Egun work, but enslaved Africans were allowed to go on Saturdays and Sundays, and they were able to dance. They was able to drum in Congo Square. It was a big tourist attraction. I always tell people, just imagine like a big old bus stop going down. Just, one corner you got the Fawn, other corner you got the Malenke, and other corner you got the Ga. Different tribes where they came from would conjugate together and do their dances. And it became a combination of those traditional African rhythms with the European instruments, and then jazz was created, right? So New Orleans is known for that. So we have a very strong musical culture. It's very strong. It's evident in the many great musicians that we produce, in the school bands and the high school bands that perpetuates all of that. So we're in that environment, right? And so besides that environment of music and dance, because if you're gonna say that New Orleans is the birthplace of jazz music, then you gotta say that the first dance came out of Congo Square as well, which is actually folkloric dancing.
Buck jump.
So then after that, then you have this whole perpetuation of African culture that we do. Like when we bury our dead, we celebrate. We have what's called a second line. A second line is a procession that follows the funeral with a band. And it's somber going to the cemetery, but it's jubilant coming back. I saw the exact ritual when I was in Ghana, complete with the umbrellas, the brass band, and everything. And so New Orleans has that flavor that it exists inside of. The houses that we live in, that we call shotgun houses, it's a house you can stand at the front door and look straight to the back door, right? That design comes out of West Africa, The food that we eat, all the foods that are staples of Louisiana are foods that come straight out of Africa. Gumbo, jambalaya, AKA Wolof rice, okra, which is a word that means gumbo, So we have a very African environment. And the people here, even when we talk, we kind of talk like a melodic kind of a tone. Whenever I travel, people never guess where I'm from because New Orleans does not have we don't talk with we don't have a southern drawl. We don't talk like Georgia. We don't talk like Mississippi, Lord, Alabama. They really southern.
But we love them. We love them all.
We do. but we have an influence. You know, we're on the same longitude and latitude with Egypt, and we share a lot of similarities between Egypt. Egypt was a place where the Nile River always overflowed. Here, the Mississippi River always overflowed. It was a port city, multicultural people.
We bury our dead above the ground.
They bury their dead above the ground. So we have, we've always had an influence, very international feel, but New Orleans is very small.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a large place at all.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I would be remiss if we left this conversation and did not talk about the costumes.
Oh, yeah, that's the part.
And I shouldn't, you know what? I don't even know if costumes is the right thing.
Yeah, we don't call
them costumes. They're suits.
Right.
Suits.
They are
suits. You know the difference between a costume and a suit? A costume covers up who you really are. But people say, I put a costume on, but a suit reveals who you really are. That's the difference. So we call them suits. That's what we call them, right? And so David can talk more about how they're constructed. If you see me looking down, I'm sewing. That's what I'm doing. This is the finished product of one design, but it starts off looking naked like this. And so I'm sewing as I'm speaking because it takes your entire life. So David, talk about that.
Okay, the suits are carefully designed because it takes us almost a whole year to put them together, to design them. But the first part of the suit is the sewing part. So everybody in the family wants to sew. We get them all at the house. Somebody's cooking a good meal, and we feed them. And we'll get them to help us put these suits together, to sew them, feed them. It takes a lot of hours, man hours. You know, sometimes you wake up out of sleep and you go back to the table because you got to know we got a day to have this stuff finished. And we don't want to be late because when you're late, you done sew it all year. And the half of the day is over with. That's no way to make a suit a whole year nowhere for a half a day. At least keep it on for 8 hours. Designed there from our eye point of view of what we want to do. One year I masked White Buffalo. That's the suit that's in the movie, the White Buffalo suit. That suit was a peaceful suit, but in the back of it, when I turned around in the back, they had a bull in rare form. So the suit expresses itself from the front. It's like a coin. When you toss the coin to the other side, there's two sides to every story. Okay. So the story to the front of the suit. And I'm humbling myself to my young cousin that's a chief from the Yellow Pocahontas tribe. So I made this White Buffalo suit in behalf to him for peace. But when I spun around to the back, there was a bull in rare form. That's the other side of me. So watch what button you press, because you might get that part of the suit to you. But these suits are carefully designed with colors, brilliant sequin, beads, pearls. And it's our ideas. We put it together. And you start off doing something not knowing all what it's going to look like till you start finishing it. Then it starts coming alive. And then feelings get all involved in it. You cry. You bleed because you might puncture yourself with a needle. You know, you're happy. It takes a lot. It takes a lot.
I want to say that here in New Orleans, there are two basic general styles of beading, and also a combination of the two together. We are divided by location, right? We call our areas uptown, downtown.
Yeah, Canal Street separate us from uptown.
So the Indians uptown, they predominantly sew flat, and they sew seams. They'll have images of Indians fighting, or last year, Black Lives Matters, whatever theme that they choose to do, they have those, but it's flat. It kind of reminds you of Haitian sewing. That's what it looks like.
But that's the way it was when they first started out, though. Right. When they first started sewing, it was flat. It took a young man like Uncle Tootie and my daddy to start making three-dimensional suits.
Right, because that's the
building castles and building animals.
That's the other style. The other style is the first style is flat. A sewing style that resembles Haiti and Nigerian, like West African beadwork. It looks almost identical. But then you have the downtown Indians who sew in 3-dimension, what David is talking about. It's actually actually can be viewed as soft sculpture because they take a particular, let's say I'm gonna take this cell phone, I'm gonna bead this cell phone. They would take the cell phone and beat it in parts and then put it together so it looked like 3D.
Yeah,
it would be
dimensional.
Coming out on your suit.
That's how the buffalo was designed.
And then there are people who combine the two together because it's about your creativity.
Yeah.
Either way, it takes a very long time to do. And it is something that, even though we're very proud of it, we're now in 2020 and we have to get more business-like about it, because what has happened in New Orleans is that our images have been captured. Photographers come from all over the world and take our pictures. We was in Paris and there's a picture of David and somebody else in his suit up on for sale.
Yeah.
We were never contacted, but the law here says if they take a picture of you in the regular public, that they have a right to do that. But they don't have a right to sell your work.
Image of me.
And you don't get credit or compensation for it. So as a result, we formed a co-op called the New Orleans Black Mardi Gras Indian Co-op, where we are positioning ourselves to have more economic sustainability. Because it shouldn't be that everybody benefits off of what we do and we don't benefit from it.
Right.
Uses our images, they make commercials out of it. It's used in almost everything.
For Black people all over the United States of America. You know, we all the way to the electricity. They say Thomas Edison. No, it wasn't. It was a Black man that captured that electricity in the bulb to make you have lights. We didn't give us. That's what they should have been giving us in school. The true story of our people, who we were, where we came from. I understood, and I didn't know this till they told me one of these great scientists of Black people was castrated because they didn't want him to make no children to be as smart. Yeah, George Washington Carver. You know, boy, that's cruel.
Yeah.
That's cruel. And then they stop in the world. They stop in the world from exploring and receiving who's the truth in this place. You know, they just don't look at us that way, but we do. We look at us as different than our people did, you know. So
right. And that's an incredible, you know, it is, you know, one of the reasons we do this film festival is because our stories matter. And we are the best caretakers of our stories. We deeply believe that. Nobody can tell our stories like we can. Nobody has the nuance. Nobody has the reference. Nobody has the understanding to also confirm or deny specific truths about who Black people are and how we came up in the world. You know, and there, when you, Queen, when you talk about, you know, the fact that Black peoples were on this continent well before Columbus, we know this to be true because we know that the continents were at once together, that there was no Atlantic Ocean, that, you know, that the land masses were connected. And so if you understand that, you know, about the history of this planet, then you know, then this does not become, you know, a myth or something that, you know, would have been impossible to happen.
I think it's very interesting the time we're in the age of Aquarius. So in 2020 is clear vision. I think this is the time that we're in a very auspicious time where all of those lies and mistruths that were taught, they're all falling down.
What you say we was in?
The age of Aquarius.
Oh, I happen to be in Aquarius.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, I'm February 5th, 1953.
So anyway.
True Aquarium.
So anyway,
we all have to pause. Chief David, you are so wonderful, and it's easy to see why you are beloved. Your leadership comes through. The fact that you have a strong Black woman at your side does not surprise me, because that is how our culture does.
David is very, very charismatic. I don't care. We could be in a crowd of 1,000 Indians. They're going to find him. The cameraman is going to find him. The photographer is going to find him. And I'm just trying to get him to understand that it's not so much about the suit that he created, because that's a beautiful thing, but it's about the energy that you emit.
Oh, I know that.
If you're sincere, committed,
yes,
a loving person. That's what projects out through, and that's what people are drawn to.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing because this culture really is a male-dominated culture. It's not that women are not a part, but it's really about the men. You know, it's like the men have the biggest crown, you know, the most elaborate stuff. You know, the queen is really just allegedly is supposed to be just an ornament, you know, just somebody who's on his side, but that's not the reality because it's a reflection of what happens in our homes. Daddy might be the breadwinner maybe, but mom is the one that's really holding it down.
The
right?
matriarchs.
You know, it's just holding it down.
Women.
So
that's why we got a black vice president.
Yes.
Huh?
yes.
Look at where we are right now.
It's a year of the woman. It's a year of the women. I think it's a year of the women. But I think that it's words that we have to understand. Like, for example, in the Indian culture, like my people are Cherokee. My great-great-grandfather was Horace Whitehead. And I'm in the process of tracing that down. For many of our people, that's not important to them, you know, to find that out. Like even my mother, I think it was so painful for them. They don't want to go back to connect, you know. But in every family, there's a gatekeeper. In every family, there's somebody who is going to research that and find that out. So I think for many people in New Orleans, the adherence to this whole sacred ritual of masking and parading, whether streets, which were normal streets for traffic, but on Mardi Gras Day, they're transformed to this pageantry where black men who are normally laborers or just regular Joe Blows, but they chiefs for that day. And on that day, the police got to bow down. The people spread around because that's the big chief coming in his tribe. So it's an act of defiance. Can you imagine, like in the early 30s, 40s, and 50s, black men stand up talking about they a chief? The fear of, you know, doing that, I shudder to think, you know, what it took for them to do that in the midst of those times like that. You know,
plenty heart.
Yeah, it took a lot of heart and a lot of guts. So it's definitely
that we got.
It's an act of defiance and an act of resistance because they thought we were seeds and they buried us. But when seeds are buried, we keep on growing. We just keep growing, and we rise and we rise. And so this culture of, and we call ourselves Black masking Indians because they call us Mardi Gras Indians because we came out for Mardi Gras. But during those times, we couldn't celebrate Mardi Gras. We celebrated Carnival. Like Trinidadian Carnival, Brazilian Carnival. We kept it in our neighborhoods.
Even the singer that sings the song from New Orleans, oh, it's Carnival time. Oh, it's Carnival time, and everybody's having fun. You know, that's the was Al Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he made that. He said, Bourbon, they wanted him to say, when he made that song, Bourbon Street rocked from one side to the other. And he wouldn't say that. He said, Rampart Street rocked from one side. And guess what? Rampart Street was full of blacks. And we used to go down and buy them suits from the Jewish people. They'd measure us up, but they always had black people working for them. And we would buy tailor-made clothes as a child. So that gives you a kind of idea what kind of man I am. I wore tailors as a child. What I want as a man, tailors. Made to my taste.
See,
you know?
that's that personality coming out. That's that personality that draws everybody. It's just as Queen Ausettua said, it's not the suit.
No,
not the suit. Now the suit is beautiful.
You know why? I'm gonna tell you why. They got some guys that don't make the best suits. But boy, do they have the moves, the songs, the singing, the talking, the rapping, the chasing. They do that. And me, to be one that can do all of that, have to give them their respect. Because they got some guys out there make me raise my eyebrows a little bit higher because they're on my heels.
There are some younger chiefs. The sewing is, when David and I, like, okay, you can see Indians on Mardi Gras Day. You can see Indians on St. Joseph Night. But then we added Super Sundays. Super Sundays are the days that's just Indians. It's an uptown Super Sunday, a downtown Super Sunday, and over the river. So that's if you just want to just see Indians, nothing else. No other bands, just Indians.
The culture. Just
whenever we go to, because we usually are in the parade with everybody else.
They show that in the film.
But when we get to the end, David and I are standing on the sidelines like spectators because
we want to watch the rest of it.
We want to see beauty.
Yes.
The beauty
that's the best
what
part.
they create is just amazing. It blows my mind that they can come up with this. And we believe that if we was to continue the practice of this culture, we could save Black families. Because if young boys and young girls are sitting at a table sewing, they ain't got time to be in the streets running behind some foolishness. And then when they're sitting at that table, they are getting knowledge from older men and older women that they so desperately need in these times. So I do see that there is a, like anything, it's changing. You know, some people resent it, but I say if young people can't morph into something that works for them, it will die. Because the older people, we won't be around forever. So if the young people don't take it and make it something, have a reverence for the old, but create something new. That's how everything comes about. That's how hip hop came about.
That's Sankofa.
Yeah, you gotta go back.
Look back.
That way.
Back.
So
she did that suit. What year that was? You did the Sankofa. Remember when I drew the boy looking back over his back? That was the peacock though, huh?
I did the peacock.
Yeah.
But
my dear friend made these earrings. I don't know if you can see them, but they are the Sankofa bird.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah. And you're a jeweler, and you are a jeweler by trade. So I knew you would.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, where am I?
That's right. I became a jeweler at about 20 years old. I started at a French jewelry store called Boudreaux Jewelers, one of the #1 jewelry stores. The only little Black dude in there. I learned, they taught me, but here's what it was. When I got the job there, the job was to clean up and wipe windows down and stuff. But I fell in love with the work that was being done at the benches. I would walk around and see all these foreigners doing the work. And one day I brought a picture of my daddy and my uncle in their suits to the job. And that picture, the old man that owned the business got a hold of the picture. So he called my mama down in the office because she worked for him too. And he says, we got David doing the wrong work. Why you didn't tell me he could do this fine beadwork? I want to try his hand in precious metals. And he called me in the office and said, look, I'm going to try you in working at the jury bench. He said, I'm going to take you away from the building. If you prove yourself a good craftsman, I'm going to pull you in all together. Months later, I was teaching little white guys how to size rings. That's right. They was coming from the high school, East Jefferson, Eric Clampton, all them little dudes that came. And I had learned how to size rings, fix change. I was in the repair department. Then I moved from the repair department to cut monogram. Then I wanted to learn about diamonds. So I asked the old man Boudreaux, I said, why don't you teach me about diamonds? And he told me that you ain't ready for that yet. So I told my mama said, go over in the Maison Blanche. But this was after 15 years of working with him. She said, they got an old Black man over in the Maison Blanche building named Eddie Kiana. He's from Nicaragua. And he taught me all about it. But I sat next to him. I left Boudreaux. I sat next to him for 7 years. And I asked him, well, how do you tell a diamond from? He said, at my ledge, you'd have to learn yourself. But observation, you observe every envelope that come in here, and you're going to see what's real and what's not. And when he finished with me, he died. And Mr. Boudreaux sent for me 7 years later, said, go get David. But he told me that he couldn't drill a hole straight enough to set a stone. That old man told me that. But maybe that's why he didn't want me to see how it was done, because he didn't learn. But Mr. Kiana was older than Mr. Boudreaux. And he taught me about the diamonds. And I learned how to flat set and bright and Tiffany set. Yeah, and that's where I wanted to be where the wisdom was, because I saw all these cats from Ecuador, Lebanese, and they were people of color, but they were the jewelers in these shops.
Mm.
And they had a few Italians that learned the work, that was good at it, but a lot of it came from Ecuador. We had fine diamond sellers at Ecuador, at Boudreaux. I met them. One time I saved one of the little guy's life because there was a machine, a rolling mill machine up on the second floor. Whoever took that machine out of there didn't close the electricity off. And I was sweeping the floor one day, and the little guy walked past it. Paco, they call it. Walked past, and I saw the wire, jumped on his leg, and he was steady. And by me having a broom in my hand, I grabbed that broom and I knocked that blind away from him. And he's screaming. His dad and them run upstairs, and they saw what was happening. They were so happy of me. Them people was thanking me and hugging me and telling me, "You saved Paco. You know, you saved Francis." You know, that was his name. He was a jeweler too. He was younger than me, but he was a jeweler. And I was about 18, he was about 17, 16. But they liked me, and they kept me in it. And I stood there and I learned. Now, I'm a retired jeweler, but I got a whole jewelry store at my house. All kind of machines that roll metal, machine, melt gold. You know, I got everything. So I'm still practicing, even though I'm retired. I practice it because it's such a unique culture, you know, the jewelry culture.
Definitely. And you know, we are going to have to wrap up this conversation. I could talk to y'all all afternoon, all day, all night. I want to come to New Orleans. And I'm sure our audience wants to do the same. But before we say goodbye, I want to make sure that you get the information out there about the association, about how to contact you, and where to see your work and how people can reach out to you. So before we say goodbye, go ahead and share that information with us.
Okay. Well, you can go to YouTube and look up
your Facebook page.
Yeah.
Your Facebook page.
Oh, my what's my Facebook page?
Well, we have two. We have the Whashitaw Nation page, and he has his own page. David, you have your own page.
David Peters, Montana, at Gmail?
No.
That's at Facebook.
Okay. David Peters. What is it? You the one made it up for me. See, I'm
you know what? We'll find the Facebook page. We'll put it up so folks can see it.
Put the Washita Nation. It will come up.
It'll come up.
And your images all in there.
Change of Heart Man.
And that's videos, David. That's not.
Okay.
And that's why I'm here with him, because my background.
That's why I told.
I'm a college professor. I do African dance and hip hop, and I've been doing it for a while. And the combination of us is it's
beautiful. Can I just say it's so beautiful and so real. And you know the truth when you see it. And I think that what people have seen today is the truth. And that's really all we need.
That's what we want them to see.
And the truth comes out when they go, Mighty Kulifayo,
Indian rain, Indian rain, your Black Indians. I say, Black Indians. I mean, Black Indians of this nation, of the whole wide creation. And we won't bow down.
No, we won't bow down.
Not on that ground.
On that dirty ground.
Because I love till you call my Indian race.
No, stop. See, I got to stop.
Thank you all so much. I am sure our audience is going to love Black Indians. Thank you. Thank you
so much for this opportunity. Yes, I gave an invitation. Okay. The Washita Nation on Facebook.
Okay.
Washita Nation, then you're gonna see a big image of David and all that.
You're gonna see all kind of pictures.
Right. If you Google our names, everything comes up. Ausettua Mormon Coon, David Montana, his images everywhere. But we've been around for a minute now. But
she wants my
we're gonna give it to her.
Okay.
Because you don't.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.